see it's, you tagged me. I can see that. Okay, now I see it live.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, there you go. Cool.
We are in. We are here. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning.
We are streaming live. Really quickly, my name is Tom, the People Conductor Black. I like bringing people together for mutual benefit. I've had the pleasure of knowing you, Jeff, now for a few years. Obviously, we met through Facebook, and we've met in person and been talking for a number of years. We've actually done some virtual real estate deals together, and I've watched you grow this free houses sub-2 group, and that's kind of your niche now, or niche, depending on you say tomato, I say tomato. So Jeff, without further ado, tell me about Jeff Richman, and let's get the ball rolling. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks, Tom, for the introduction. My name is Jeffrey Richman. For those of you who don't know, I do run a group on Facebook called Free Houses Sub-2. So if you go to groups, or you go to the search bar and you type in Free Houses Sub-2, you'll be able to pull it up, ask to join. I personally look at every single one and accept or decline. Okay, just so you know. You know, I don't have some VA from the Philippines doing this. It's actually me. I've been involved in real estate since about 1994. When I first heard about Subject 2, it just spoke to me. I'm a numbers guy. I ran the numbers, and I think they're amazing. You can take a property with no equity. That's $100,000 house, person owns 100, and you can still make $50,000, $60,000 on it. And throughout this interview with Tom, we'll probably go into that a little bit. I am active. This is not something I've done, 10 years ago. I just did 3 deals last week, doing a deal this week, doing another deal next week. So I'm still active. I do this all the time. And actually, I'm working on coming out with my own course. Hopefully, we'll be out at the beginning of the year for different things that you don't necessarily always see on this.
So what you're saying is you're gonna bring more to it than the average person might learn elsewhere.
I'm hoping.
Right.
If anything, I mean, it's not going to be state specific. It'll be more general. Anybody that has a course has to do something general, but certainly take the forms and everything one time to your attorney and say it's okay. I can tell you, I do multiple states. I work in, 15 states right now, and I've done deals in all of them. Most of them are sub-2, and they're fine. The documents work out really well.
Nice. Okay.
I just want to make sure you do it the right way.
Right. And when we talk about that, one of the things I was interested in learning, tell me about an ideal scenario or a typical scenario. I'm a homeowner. I just want out. I'm open to pretty much anything that's creative. We've built rapport. I trust what you tell me. Why would a home seller do a subject to, or can you also define what that is?
Sure. And let's do it. Let's dispel a couple of things.
Sure.
A lot of people, Tom, feel that, well, if somebody's going to do a subject to deal, okay, by allowing them to take over the mortgage, and we'll explain that more in depth in a little bit, but they feel the person has to be behind in payments or facing pre-foreclosure or foreclosure. And that's not true. 98% of all the deals I've done over the last 20 something years, people are current on their payments. Now we ask the question, why? Why would they do such a thing? Because that's what you're asking me. Well, there are a myriad of reasons. It could be that, they just got transferred. If somebody's transferred from here, I'm located in North Carolina. They just got transferred tomorrow to Iowa, or they have to go there in 2 weeks. They don't really have enough time to put it on the market and list the property. Okay. They want to go out there. So we give them a quick out because we can purchase a home sub to in 3 to 7 days. It could be maybe they lost their job. They can't afford to keep their home. They're being proactive. Maybe they're about to get a divorce. Okay. Maybe they're married with kids. The spouse is moving out there, but the other spouse has to stay with the children to move the house. Well, that puts a lot of stress on the family.
Wow, that's tough. Yeah.
You know, and those are many of the reasons.
Okay. And to that point, if I own a property and I decide I want to go in that direction, take me through some of the steps of the process. So I want to get with my family. I'm willing to do a subject to with you. Do I sign over the deed? Do you take title to the property? How does that work?
Yes. Let's go back to your earlier question first, which is what is subject to? So if you look at your loan, okay, on your HUD-1 settlement statement, it's usually a 3-page document. On your first page, little bit about halfway down, line 203, move your finger over to line 503. It says it's pre-printed on the form, taking loan subject to. Most people don't know what that is, but last time I checked, it's a government form. It's a HUD-1 settlement form. HUD stands for Housing and Urban Development. That's a governmental agency. So I look at it as if it's okay for the government, it's okay for me. Okay. That's how we look at it. But what is a subject to? Subject to is basically just taking over somebody's loan subject to the current conditions of the loan. It's what is that loan? If that loan is escrowed at 4.5%, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, and the total payment is say $1,500, then you're taking over the loan based on those conditions of the loan. Now, to answer your other question, we own the home, they own the loan. And that means if it was you, Tom, and I took over your loan, the loan remains in your name. However, the ownership does not. Okay. And the reason that occurs is it protects you and it protects me. Think about it. If you're in the Walmart parking lot, you back up and you hit a little old lady, whether she's hurt or not, what is the first thing she's going to do?
Possibly sue me.
Exactly. Well,
after she swings her purse at me a couple times.
Right. If she's able to. And
right. Or her kid.
But think about this. If she sues you, does that not encumber your current house?
Yes.
So if you were to sell your current home that you live in, you had a lawsuit against it, in some cases, in many instances, you can't sell. But suppose she gets a judgment against you. That attaches to the house because you own it. It's in your name. Well, you're going to have to pay that before you sell it. So me transferring the title, so I own it in one of my entities, protects you, but it also may protect me. See, if I have 20 houses and each one is held differently, and they're going to sue the owner of the house if it happens, well, it would just attach to that house. It won't affect my other 19. Only that one. Okay. Right. So I can still carry on with what I'm doing.
Got it.
And how do you think I know this?
You've been through it before.
You think?
Yeah. Maybe more than once.
Maybe more than once.
Okay. And so give me an example scenario. Pick someone out of the last three deals that you did, and one that was maybe messy, one that was smooth. And obviously you're going to protect the not so innocent, and we're not going to be talking about names and addresses.
Right.
But can you take me through a scenario of how you got the lead, how the conversation went, and how the transfer went down? And this is a completed transaction where you're in, it's ongoing right now. Can you give me an
Sure.
example?
Sure. I can give you a couple.
Yeah.
A lot of my deals, because I've been doing this a long time, come from word of mouth. The majority of mine come from word of mouth, or I have friends that have a lot of websites and say, hey, I've got this lead here. I only deal in Baltimore County. This one is, in Idaho. Can you work it? So just to let you know, I don't care in the country where the deal is. It matters not to me. It's all a numbers game. So if the numbers make sense, I will do the deal.
Right.
So they come to me through websites, word of mouth, referrals that I do. I just got a call yesterday on a referral on one. So that happens all the time. So that's where a lot of my leads come from. I do have people that make outbound calls for me. Okay.
Okay.
They call Craigslist ads, they call Zillow ads, they call expired listings. So we try to, I don't do any direct mail marketing for myself.
Right.
I do not.
Yeah.
There are a lot of
Right.
people that like it, but I don't do it because I don't need to. I have more leads actually than I can handle right now. So taking you through a couple scenarios, a few of them come to mind. Okay. I've got one that this guy happened to be behind. It was his childhood home. I just did this last week in Illinois. Actually, I'm negotiating with the attorneys right now for the amount of bringing it current. So he moved 400 miles away. It was his childhood home. His parents had died. I took over this property, and I've already sold, owner financed it and sold it. So not only am I going to make up his back payments, which were only a couple, but the person moving into home owner financed it from me and gave me a little over $11,000 to do it.
Right.
Another deal that I did, and this is going to be hard for a lot of people listening. I took over another property from somebody, didn't have much equity. This was a smaller house. It was worth about 42.5. I think he owed 37. So working the numbers, I had him pay me to take the house. So he paid me over $8,000 to take his house. This just happened last week.
Okay.
So these are very current deals. I did another deal last week. Literally, there was no equity. The guy owed 77.5. It was worth 80. Now he was an older gentleman. He wanted to move a couple states away. He vacated the house. I said, look, the only way we can make this happen, because he didn't have $8,000 or $10,000 to give me. Okay. So
Sure.
I had him pay the next 3 payments that were due.
Okay.
So he's paying through December. Meanwhile, I will probably get that property occupied in the next under 30 days. So I get 2 additional months of profit, aside from the upfront money from the person moving in.
Okay. Okay. And so you had mentioned that you take title to the property in this process, and then through all the documentation, you accept legal and financial responsibility for their mortgage, and that's what helps them sleep at night. Is that right?
Well, I want them to be able to sleep at night. And I actually use those words. I say, look, if dealing with me, you're going to have an issue doing this, sleeping at night, then don't do it. I just tell people, don't do this with me.
Nice.
I'm very upfront about it, but I don't assume the loan. I don't take over. Well, I take over financial responsibility by telling them I'm going to make the payment.
Sure.
However, technically, if it was your property, Tom, technically, because the loan is in your name, you're still responsible.
Right. I
However,
understand.
I'd let people know it's not going to come to that
Right.
because I'm going to make the underlying payment.
Sure. Sure. Now to that point, one of the things that we were talking about you taking title to the property, so the property will be in your entity's name. Do you put it in LLC? Do you typically put it in a trust? And how does that affect the contract or the arrangement with the mortgage? I've heard about something called a due on sale clause. Can you explain, how you take title and how you work through that potential challenge?
Sure. So there's two questions there. First is how do I take title? Second is about the due on sale. So we'll go one at a time.
Sure.
So how I take title is every property is in a separate land trust. A lot of people learn LLCs are good, and there's nothing wrong with that. But think about this. Each LLC that you start, you have to pay for. Okay. And then every year, you've got to pay an ongoing fee.
Sure.
Well, we'll say 20 houses, okay, which for some people seems a lot. For other people, it's not a lot. Okay. So if I have 20 houses and I have 20 LLCs, first of all, it's an accounting nightmare. Okay. That's the first thing. Second of all, it costs a crap load of money. You got to set them up. Okay. Even if you go to a place like Colorado or Wyoming or someplace else, and like say Wyoming, it only costs you, I think, $125 to set it up. But there's still an ongoing fee every year for each LLC. So what I do is I set up one LLC and I put about 10, 12 properties into that LLC via a land trust. So I set up the land trust. So if you think about it, the land trust owns the house, not you.
Right.
You never own anything. So the land trust owns the house, and you could have the beneficial interest of the land trust, the ownership of the land trust being your LLC, thus keeping your name away from public record. And somebody you trust could be your trustee.
Okay.
So that's how I take title. But going on to the due on sale clause, understand there is no due on sale jail. Okay. Every mortgage since 1978 is actually non-assumable. Now, a lot of you argue with me. Yes, you can assume it now with qualifying.
Right.
Well, with qualifying, you might as well just go get a new loan.
Right.
Your name is going to be everywhere. The whole key of subject to is to take over somebody's loan so you don't have to put your credit at risk and go through all those hoops and paperwork, which is a pain.
Right.
And do all that. So you can pay a little bit more for a house by taking it sub two. But going back to the due on sale clause, so every single mortgage since 1978 has a due on sale clause. It says they may, at their option, call the loan due. Keyword being may. Doesn't say they will. Doesn't say they have to. Doesn't say they must. It says they may at their option. Well, think about it. If you're a bank, you have a performing asset, meaning I make money on you business, okay? Not the real estate business. They want to keep that loan happening. So if you're sending them on your 4.5% loan every month of payment, the bank doesn't care who makes a payment as long as they get a payment. Okay?
Right.
As long as they get it, they're not going to call it due unless rates miraculously go up to 18%. Then they'll look closely at a loan. But I've done hundreds of these, and with the people I know, a total of thousands of these, and no one has ever had a loan call due. that I
Okay. Okay. Now I've heard of other people in the past, and this is why I was asking how you take title. Um, Based on what you just said, it probably doesn't matter. But some of the guru types, teacher types have been, so let's say it was owned by Bill Smith. They've talked about, well, it would make it less messy to take title in Smith Family Trust, even though that's not their trust, it's someone else's. Does that matter at all? Do you have to have the trust even affiliated with the previous owner's name at all?
um naming it the Smith Family Trust, if it's John Smith that owned the property, but he no longer owns the property and you're taking it over, can create an issue, at least
Okay.
in my eyes. Now, understand, this is just my opinion. There are a
Right.
lot of them out there. Everybody's got opinions like everybody's got a rear end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we know that one.
For me, I don't like doing it because the judge, if it ever comes to that and you go to court, could rule against you and go, well, the trust is named after the family that
Right.
owned the property. It's still theirs. And they can negate the whole thing. I mean, there's a number of things that could happen.
Right. Right.
So
Okay.
a lot of times the way that I do it is, you could use a numerical strategy. You can use the address of the property. You can name it the Judeo-Christian Trust, something that is totally different. You can name
Right.
it the Orphan Annie Trust. Who wants to go against orphans? Okay.
Right. Right.
So there are a number of things that you could do to protect yourself. Just
Okay.
keep a list of what your names are on the trust associated with which property, so you know what's going on.
Okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I understand. And again, a lot of people have different information, different styles, different strategies that they do, but that makes more sense. It sounds like it limits your liability by doing it the way you just mentioned. The other thing is, with the transactions that you have done, what's a typical timeline where their underlying mortgage stays on the record? Could that be for 2 years, 5 years, the rest of the loan term,
All of the
or
above.
all of the above? Okay. And so that being said, for you personally, your goal, your exit strategy is to put in a tenant buyer. Is that right? Or are there different strategies you use?
There's two main strategies.
Okay.
The strategies that I use to get rid of property are rent to own or
Okay.
lease option. It's just a price point.
Sure.
Is the only difference. So we'll just say rent to own, or I do owner financing, like
Okay.
contract for deed, agreement for deed, depending on the state you're in.
Okay.
In Texas, it's called all-inclusive trust deed. So
Okay.
the only difference is what's named at the top of that. The body is all the same.
Okay.
The owner financing. I like owner financing because you can get more money from a lot of people to owner finance, and you're able to stretch it out upwards of 40 years. So think about it, 30, 40 years of payments and making a profit and not having to do anything is
Okay.
fantastic.
Now that brings up a really good point that I've been thinking about. So let's say you find a great subject to opportunity, you offer owner financing to an individual. Do you still keep it in title in your name, or do you transfer title after they put up down payment or whatever you want to call it? Does it
Well, okay. So I'm a bit confused by the question.
Let me
Are
say it
we
a different way.
talking
When you do
when
owner
I have the
financing,
property?
I come to the table and I want to buy it.
Right.
Do I take title?
No. The
Okay.
way that I owner finance a property, contract for deed or agreement for deed, we'll just use those as owner financing. It's very similar to a car title.
Okay.
So when you go and buy a car, you make payments on the car. You don't get title to the car until
Understood.
you make the last payment.
Right.
Well, contract for deed or agreement for deed are the exact same things. People
Okay.
overcomplicate stuff.
Okay.
You just need to simplify it. So an
Right.
agreement for deed is basically the same thing as a car title.
Okay.
Make payments. When you're done making payments, I'll give you the deed. Now, that could be they keep making payments to me, or X amount of years later, they decide they can get a much better rate from the bank, which they can. Okay. I'm not here to be, I like being the bank, but I'm not giving bank rates. They could go to the bank and pay it off, or they can make payments to me. When I'm paid off, the deed conveys.
Okay. And then the underlying mortgage is paid off, and hopefully you keep the difference
Correct.
in that case. And then the other thing, another question I had for you is, do you have if you keep doing more and more of these deals, it's got to be a little cumbersome to keep track of. Do you have a servicer when you put these deals, whether it's a lease option, lease purchase, or contract for deed, do you have a third party that facilitates all the payments, or do you handle all that directly yourself throughout the process?
Well, for me directly, when I do an owner finance deal, I like to keep things very simple. So I don't like doing a lot of paperwork. And
Sure.
with real estate, there's a lot of paperwork.
True.
It's unfortunate. It just happens to be one of those things I don't like. So what I wind up doing on owner finance is I have another company handle collecting the money, because they do all the tax paperwork for me, which
Mhm.
I don't want to do, nor do I know how to do, nor do I care to know how to do.
Okay.
On my rent to own, I set it all up on a third party servicer that it's a different company. It goes to them, then they ACH it to me. Both of them ACH it to me. And
Understood.
what
Okay.
I've set on mortgages, the underlying mortgages on all these properties that I've taken sub to, I set up automatic payments through my account.
Okay.
So,
So
they pull the money directly out of my account, but I usually set it up for around the 14th.
okay. And let me think about this for a second too, because I have to believe that this may be a strategy you use, maybe not. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, the mortgage is 800, the contract for deed, they're paying $1,000 a month, as an example. Okay, with that overage, with that profit, or with that net cash flow, do you make additional payments? Do you make 13 payments a year on the underlying mortgage, or you just stick to the regular terms to build up? Which do you do? Because I'm thinking the only reason I mention it is might be a way to build up equity throughout the process, or you just keep it static.
And that's a great question. So I would say I do both. There's a property I just did 2 weeks ago somewhere in South Carolina. I'm JVing that one with somebody. It stands for joint venture. And I think we're getting like $320 a month off that property.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my half and her half, that's $160 each. We're not getting rich off $160. I mean, it
No.
helps, it's great. So the underlying mortgage on that house, I think, is a little bit over $750 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about what we're going to do on that one, is we're going to make extra payments every month. We're just going to put that additional money on towards principal. So at the end of the year, we're going to buy down essentially 5 payments.
Right.
And that's going to help our equity position because it saves us so much interest.
Okay.
So on some of them we do, others, I mean, I have a lot of systems. I have people that work for me, I have to pay. So I want most of that incoming money. But where it doesn't really matter, or it's going to make a big difference, I go ahead and just make the extra payments, as long as the
Okay.
people I'm joint venturing with agree.
Gotcha. Well, just want to mention, Jordan had posted a couple of questions here in the in your Facebook group. Why not do a wrap? Don't want to go through foreclosure process, especially in a mortgage state. So as you mentioned, you're not going to go through a foreclosure when you're doing contract for deed because they don't have the title.
Well, I would say it depends on the state. Okay.
Okay.
Judges don't always do what the law says. And how do you think I know that?
Yeah, that's an understatement, probably.
Sometimes they make their own law. Then you have to decide, well, do I want to fight them because I'm right, or just let it go and take my lumps? I can't answer that for you. But,
right.
If you do a wrap, you have to foreclose the person. Okay. So
yeah.
I'm assuming you're asking about doing a wrap when you're selling the property. So it's similar to a wrap, but on a contract for deed, it's typically easier to get the person out. You do the wrap, basically it's in their name because you're wrapping that mortgage. You're doing something with them, and the burden of proof is going to be on you.
Right.
I don't want that happening. So I don't do wraps of any sort, buying or selling. But that's me. I have some friends that the only way they'll buy is on a wrap. But, depending on your state, I mean, if you're in Texas or Georgia, in under 60 days, you could be kissing the curb on a foreclosure. But if you're in North Carolina, where I'm at, or Florida, or I think even Maryland is like this, you're looking at 6 to 9 months, and if somebody knows how to play the game, could be up to 2 years. Well, I'm sorry, but you're not going to live off of me for that long. Okay. I've had people try. So to get people out, it's actually cheaper to pay them to leave. And I've done that before.
Okay. And along those lines too, had a great question. I think it slipped my mind, but it's going to come back to me in about 10 seconds. When you have, whether you do contract for deed or you do a lease option or a lease purchase, rent to own, do you typically see a larger upfront payment when you do contract for deed? Or have you seen lease options and contract for deed, initial payments, they're about the same? I mean, I think you kind of alluded to earlier that people who do contract for deed on owner financing typically will put up a little more money up front.
Oh, yeah. Well, they'll actually put up a lot more, almost double, if not more.
Wow.
The way that I work it on my rent to owns, it's usually 3 to 5% of the purchase price.
Okay.
Contract for deed, I make people give me 10%. And I don't negotiate that at all.
Okay.
If I'm going to give somebody, quote unquote, ownership of the property, they can take care of the tax advantages and benefits and things like that, then you're going to have some serious skin in the game.
Okay.
Now, I have a number of my properties where I've sold on rent to own because they didn't have enough for contract for deed, but I have them pay me more than I'm asking for every month because I apply that to the purchase price. I don't give rent credits because in this state, if you give rent credits, it's called equitable interest. Equitable interest is an ownership right, perceived ownership right. And judges perceive they have ownership rights. So I don't give rent credits anywhere in the country. I just take off of the purchase price. That increases my cash flow, but hopefully the person buys a house and I can roll them right into a contract for deed when they hit 10%.
Okay. All right. So they're paying a little extra each month. That actually comes off the purchase price. And then once they get to that 10% level, you just you just rework their paperwork?
I
Basically?
do. I do.
Okay.
But also think it's, you know, for those of us that have kids, I liken real estate to having children, meaning everything is negotiable. Everything.
Right.
Okay? So you can say, okay, we take $100,000 house. First of all, I'm going to sell it for 1,099. Okay, I like
Mhm. Mhm.
so we're just going to round it to 110 because my
Sure.
crystal ball is fuzzy. I don't know about yours, but mine is 2 years from now, somebody's going to buy the house. So
Right.
they rent to own it. They give me, say their payment is 1,000 a month, but they give me 1,100 because that 100, which is 1,200 a year, applies to the purchase price of the upfront money that they gave me.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You can have the choice to give them a zero credit, 25, 50, or 100%, whatever you want to do to match what they're giving you.
Mhm.
And the way I look at it, does it really matter? I'm inflating the price anyway. So if I give them, say I gave them 100% matching credit. So for if they give me $100 a month over and I give them an extra 100 credit, that means they're being credited $200 a month, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
So if I do that, does it really matter to me by giving them an additional $1,200 for the year when the price of the house is already raised $10,000?
Mhm.
10,000, 1,200 sounds like a good trade-off to me. And I've increased
Sure.
my cash flow 1,200.
Right. Okay. And I and let's look at the downside for a second.
Okay.
When you have someone who does a contract deed versus rent to own, um, how about trouble or challenges? Do you find that people who do rent to own maybe cause more problems with making on-time payments than contract for deed? Or what has been your experience on those people, that have gone into the process because, have they consistently made payments, and have you had many issues with them doing that in either scenario?
I don't think it's necessarily the cost of the property. I think it's the individual themselves because
Right.
I do high-end properties too. We're talking two, 300, 400. I mean, I go up to 550,000 on
Mm-hmm.
associate because where I live, the average price of a home is close to 400,000. Okay,
Right.
a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, I could never do that," but you just work the numbers. Now, granted, the higher the price, the less cash flow you're going to make, but the higher the upfront and back end profit you're going to get.
Right.
I've had to evict people on low end properties and high end properties. So I can't really say one over the other to answer
Okay.
the question.
And do you manage all of these remotely, or do you ever use any boots on the ground property management type folks?
For myself, I don't use property managers. I have property in a number of states, as I've said, but I don't use property managers because all my properties are rent to owner finance. And my whole thing is if you want to be a homeowner, act like it. If the doorknob falls off, go put a new one on. If your kid flushes a Power Ranger down the toilet and stops it up, don't call me, call the plumber. You
Right.
know, and because of that, I don't have management issues because I don't fix anything.
Mm-hmm.
So they're responsible and they've signed
Okay.
all the paperwork that says they are. So I don't need property managers, just keep sending the money to me.
Right. Right. And also, when it comes to, and this is something may look at in the beginning, I don't know, but since the individual who moves into the property is responsible for the payment and the repairs, Do you ever recommend that they get a home warranty or anything like that in case anything major happens?
I do. Home warranties are sometimes they can be iffy. I've got home warranties on a number of my properties that I've kept up on. Specifically one of them, my mom lives in one of my houses. So of course I wanted to warranty that.
Okay.
Some of this stuff they've covered. Others are like, no, we're not going to cover it. And I've gotten a yelling match with some of them. They wind up sending me checks anyway to shut me up.
Right.
Okay?
Squeaky wheel.
Squeaky wheel gets a grease. Exactly.
Right. Okay.
They hope that you go away so they don't have to deal with it. But I mean, overall, home warranties for me on some of the properties that I've had are good. I will suggest to people that are living in a property that are doing owner financing, they should get one. But, you can't make them do it.
Right. So, but you inform them and educate them and say, hey, look, this is a $400 or $500 a year insurance policy in case you have a $3,000 or $5,000 repair.
Yeah. Well, typically a home warranty runs about $1,000 more.
Okay.
But, if you keep the house in good shape, they will take care of your air conditioner, take care of your systems. I just got a new stove and fridge in one of my units. I got a new AC unit taken care of. I got a repair done on an AC unit. So occasionally, I mean, it keeps it from being, a pain to deal with the way I look at it on certain ones. I just make a call, take care of the servicing. Usually they do because they're responsible because they want to be a homeowner. And then they go out and they take care of it. So I really only have to make one call. I don't have to call around 10 different AC companies and have them work on something, or if there's a problem with the stove and help them out. It saves everybody a lot of trouble.
Right. Well, I've got an interesting scenario right now. Obviously, we talked about the challenges in Maryland, but let me just give you the scenario. They owe about $390. They have it listed on the market for $425. If everything goes according to plan, they're going to walk away with nothing. It's a divorce situation. Some of the scenarios when you do these, you said it could be relocation, it could be divorce, it could be illness. What are some of the other scenarios where someone would want to consider doing this strategy with you?
Well, real quick, going into the numbers you just gave me, they're going to have to pay more than $10,000 just to sell their house. It's not going to be a break-even scenario.
Right.
They're going to have to pay to get out of their house. Now, normally this would be a perfect scenario for us to handle. Okay. We come in, take over their existing loan, maybe have them make some payments or pay us think about it. Is it cheaper for them to get the loan out of their name, close on it, and pay $10,000 or more out of their pocket for this house? Or does it make sense to just let us take over the loan and pay us maybe $4,000 or make 3 or 4 payments?
Right.
I don't know. It's up to the person you're talking to. But you want to give them that option.
Sure. Okay.
But some of the other scenarios, well, like this one is a divorce, job loss, transfer, could be death of a person. Maybe somebody died, but there's still an underlying mortgage. Well, ultimately, let's say it's a parent that passes. The kids really don't care, which happens, believe it or not. Kids don't care about the property. They're 1,000 miles away. So they really don't care. Well, if we can make it worth their while and take care of their burden, because that's how they're looking at it, we can come over and take over this loan. Even though the person is deceased, again, the kids might be the heirs. So The bank doesn't care who's making the payments, again, as long as they're getting the payments.
Right.
You know, going back to your question, could be upsizing or downsizing. We did another property in South Carolina. Person tried to sell the house for a year. They didn't have a whole lot of equity, couldn't sell their house, even though they listed it a couple times. I took a look. They, real quick, they wanted to upsize because they had twins. So they needed more space. So I worked it out. I looked at the numbers, and 5 minutes later, literally the next day, my partner on this deal was sitting in their living room and they were signing paperwork as they were crying. Now, crying not because they were upset, but crying out of happiness that they made one phone call. It came to my desk, and 5 minutes later, we were making the deal. And literally, we were in their living room, or he was in their living room the next day. And then the next week, we actually closed this with an attorney because that made them comfortable.
Okay. Well, Tammy asked a great question, Jeff. I wanted to, first of all, shout out to Tammy. How are you? It's been a long time. Tammy asked, how do you handle the insurance on the property, on whether you do a lease option or a contract for deed? How do you cover that? How do you handle that?
Well, let's go back because, you know, and Tammy's been part of the group and stuff. I think that the insurance question is really based on the sub two. How do you handle insurance sub two? Because that's a hot topic of debate for a lot of people.
Sure.
What has worked for me, and I'm going to say for me, and I would suggest you try this. It's up to you. Okay. Take it with a grain of salt. But what I do is, you know, let's say Bank of America is the current lien holder of the property. So
Sure.
obviously, when you get an insurance policy, they're still going to be the named insured.
Right.
Right. You, or your, in this case, my trust will be second. Okay.
The additional insured.
Yes, additional insured.
Okay.
But then let's say, Tom, I took your house, sub two. Well, the $7.50 an hour bank employee, if he doesn't see Tom Black's name on the paperwork, he's probably going to freak out and flag that file, okay, which could create an additional problem. We haven't done anything wrong, nothing illegal, but it's more red tape and paperwork.
Sure.
And time. How do you think I know this? Okay. So what we do is we'll say, okay, Bank of America is the insured. Additional insured is my trust. We'll say 123 Main Street Trust. And then we'll put Tom Black, ATIMA. Okay. ATIMA stands for as their interest may appear. That's what it stands for. As their interest may appear. Now Tom's name is on the insurance policy.
Okay.
Now when that bank employee sees it, he'll go, oh, okay. The loan is in Tom Black's name. He's on the policy. Okay, no problem. And it'd just go through like nothing. Now I know it works because actually, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I had to make a claim on a house I have in Alabama. A tree fell from a storm, put a big hole in the roof, and ripped off all the gutters on the front of the house. So I think my deductible was about $1,000, little bit more, I think 1,100. So I got a whole new roof, brand new gutters on this house, and it cost me $1,100.
Nice.
And they covered the other $8,000 it took to do this. They sent a check. I had it in a week and a half, and I put in my account and then paid the roofer.
Okay.
So I do know that it works. I got paid through the trust. No, here's one of the questions. Do you have to have a trust bank account? I didn't. I've been banking it at this bank for a decade, and they know me. So I just took a check, signed a power of attorney, or as management, because I'm the management of the trust, not the trustee, but the manager. And they went ahead and cashed it, took care of it, went right in my account. send it off. So I know that the way that I do it works. I only know the way I do it. Some other people may
Right.
do it other ways.
Sure, sure. And I'm going to ask you a unique question, and I don't know exactly how you might want to answer it, but it sounds to me, and I've heard about other people who do similar strategies in the real estate space. People I've met face to face who do either lease options or subject to or contract for deed or any number of these strategies. It sounds to me like you cover absolutely everything, every scenario. You've been through multiple scenarios. You've had challenges and successes along the way that you've overcome or worked through. And you said that you're going to be putting out a program, a training on how people can do this and use this strategy. And it's going to be coming out, early next year. What makes Jeff Richman's style of either teaching or the process? Is there anything that you can think of off the top of your head that would say, hey, you know what? I wouldn't want to learn this from anyone else, aside from the fact you've been doing it a long time. Anything that you can think of that a strategy or what you do that's different?
There are a lot of people that do what I do and teach what I do. I'm not going to say I'm a little bit different from them. I have over the years taken a piece from Peter and taken a piece from Paul and put things together for what works for me. And I've modified it to work for me. What makes things work for me is that I do deals constantly. I just did some deals. I'm about to do some deals. Next week, I'm doing more deals.
Right.
I do deals all the time. It's not like I'm teaching this and it's been 10 years since I've done a deal.
Right, right. And
which you and I both know there are people out there like that.
Yes.
Okay.
And I wanted to just add one thing to that point. Sorry to interrupt, and I hope I don't lose your train of thought. But my friend Charles Blair, who's been in real estate for like 25 years, he goes by the moniker the mad scientist, is a marketing genius and what have you. But he talks about gurus and durus. You're a duru.
I'm a
you
duru.
do and you teach.
I do. As a matter of fact, I just taught last night and I'm teaching again Tuesday. I just got asked last night by somebody else that runs the local RIA group, Real Estate Investment Association, to speak. So,
right.
And I like doing it because, I come from the theory of abundance. There is enough money out there for everybody. Why keep things close to the vest and say me, 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 me? Those are the people that are going to go down as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
It's not a win-lose scenario. Okay. The way that I work it out, everybody that deals with me has to make money. And it has to be right. Think about it. If the seller is giving up, their loan and their equity for peace of mind, it's not always a financial win. It just has to be a win. So think about it. If I'm dealing with you, if the deal I'm proposing you doesn't work for you, you're not going to do it, right?
Right.
Okay. If it doesn't work for me, I'm not going to do it, right?
Correct.
Okay. So therefore, it's got to be a win-win scenario for everybody involved.
Sure.
It's not a win-lose. It's not, I have to benefit, you be damned. It's not like that. It's, you've got to come out and you have to be okay with this. And I have to be okay with it. If either of us aren't okay with it, let's not do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's my attitude on the whole thing.
Now, I have another scenario that kind of popped into my head as we're talking, and wanted to ask you about that. If someone has to relocate, or maybe they have a home in North Carolina, but they want to buy a home in Florida, as an example.
Right.
Okay. But you're going to be taking over the property and the mortgage and that responsibility. And we know that in some situations, people have to sell to qualify to buy. And I've heard that if someone is making the mortgage payment or making the payment, that their debt to income is only 75% of that total debt if someone else is making that payment. So how would that work if I have a house and I want to buy another house, but my debt to income is kind of off because I have this other mortgage? Is there any scenario in which you're able to help them through that process so they can buy again somewhere else?
Sure. And this is all based on time. Okay. So your first 12 months, typically, and now again, this is just what I found. Now, recently I found potentially other things, and I'm going to call and talk to these people to find out. But from what I've been dealing with so far, the first 12 months, you'll get 75% credit on your debt to income. So let's use round figures. Say your current payment on your house is $1,000. You're going to move to Florida. You're going to buy a new house. How do you qualify? Well, you're going to get a credit for $750, which leaves $250. So you have to qualify for the new mortgage plus $250. Okay, that would be for your first 12 months. After your first 12 months, you'll get 100% wash, because I'll write a letter, or whoever can write a letter to the mortgage company that you're responsible for making the payments, you're taking care of the mortgage payments. And then technology is such, like I can go online to my bank, type in the bank name or the amount of the mortgage, come up with a whole list of the last 12 months of payments, PDF it, and send it, email it with the letter to the mortgage person. Go, see, I've been making all the payments on time for the last 12 months. Then they get a wash.
Okay.
And I've done that a number of times. I had one guy had a house here. He moved to California. He got divorced, still had good credit. And he says, look, having this loan in my name is really screwing my credit up. I need you to pay it off. And I said, hey, Dan, that's not our agreement. My agreement is I take it over and it gets paid off whenever my buyer can buy. However, let me help you. So I wrote a letter, sent him the last 12 payments that have been on time to him, okay, that he forwarded to his mortgage person. I've never heard from the guy since.
Okay. Right. So and that's kind of what I thought, because I know people who have bought a home, FHA, okay, then they rented it out, and then they went and got the next home, possibly with conventional, right? Right. And that DTI, the debt to income, was a little bit off, but they were able to count that 75% rental income. Correct. And so the difference,
as additional income.
Right. And so, that's the distinction that I didn't know, is that after that year period, that's great. And that's the thing too. What I've learned now, when I talk to an individual, well, first of all, I'm going to talk to them with you. So that's not going to be an issue, and you're going to explain it. It's kind of like the video you sent me the other day. They do all the heavy lifting. Right. That's what I want. Other people to talk about what they know well, and I only know this much. So the other thing I wanted to tell you is, or say to you, it sounds to me like this is a very, very effective strategy for a lot of people. And aside from fear, what are some of the reasons that people don't explore this strategy?
Well, the people, like some of the people on the call or that may listen to this, don't understand the strategy or know how to talk about it right. Or, and I found this out, and I'm really good at this. Right. But the people I talk to don't understand, because they have blinders on. They're like racehorses. They only know two ways to sell their house.
Right.
All cash or get a mortgage. That's all they know. They don't understand we're an option for them. And I can't tell you how many people have given me a hug, cried on my shoulder, shook my hand, are like, we never knew there was anybody out there that offered this.
Right.
Because even though it's been around for hundreds of years, people don't know about it. They don't understand it. And it's getting the people to understand. Going back to this, I was talking to somebody yesterday about it. Unlike a wholesale deal,
Hmm.
okay, which could be what I call a one call close. You can call them, you can make a deal. Sometimes, most of the time, you can make a deal on the phone and buy the house. On a sub two, you're not going to be able to do that typically. My numbers are between 5 and 8 phone calls per person. So
Okay.
that seems like a lot. But think about this. When you wholesale or you rehab and fix and flip a house, when you're done with that house, what do you have to do?
Find another one.
Exactly. You've got to find another one. Well, if you do something over and over again, isn't that a job?
Pretty much. And
Let's
that's
think
active
about that.
income. And that's why I love this strategy, Jeff, because you're making income from each of these houses every month.
And I still have
And
the house.
exactly, exactly. And, some people look at the Airbnb strategy, some people look at the lease option strategy, but they don't control the property.
Right.
And that's the advantage here, is that you control the property. In 1 minute, I just want to take a second here. I want to welcome, we have Betty, Mark, Quincy, Steve, and Vinay from the group that are all here on this live as attendees. And I just asked if they have any questions. So, feel free to post the questions in the group or in the chat while we're here with Jeff. So anyway, welcome to those folks. And then, we have a number of people watching live as well.
And if you have anybody watching this has a specific question while we're live, I'll be more than happy to answer it. And I think you have one down there right now. Couple.
Okay, let me look right here. Let's see. Well, it says, hey guys, thanks for putting this on. And then I put any questions. So I haven't heard from anyone in the group, but I'm on live. Jordan asked a couple of really good questions, and then Tammy asked the question about the insurance. Mm-hmm. So I think that we're staying on top of everybody as we're doing this and moving forward. And the information has been absolutely fantastic to this point. And obviously you're incredibly knowledgeable. When did you decide that this was going to be your almost exclusive primary focus in your business? I know you've made a shift. When did you make that decision?
I made the decision probably a couple years ago. Even though I've been doing real estate for a long time, I've done wholesale. I still do. I've done fix and flip, though I don't do it anymore because I think it's a real pain for me. I've done notes, I've done partials, I've done a lot of things involved in real estate. But I just love the fact of getting a house, keeping it, and we keep getting paid. We get the upfront money. We get the monthly money. We get the back end. We get the mortgage buy down. We get the write-offs. Sometimes, most of the time, I have the people pay me to take their house. Now, it could be like this one guy paid me a little over $8,000 up front, or it could be I get paid because they make 3 or 4 payments. But 99% of my properties, I've gotten paid to take one way or the other in some way, shape, or form.
And if I could interject real quick, Mark just asked a great question. If you're the manager, who is the trustee? The LLC?
Well, no, because first of all, great question, Mark, and welcome aboard. When you take a property in a trust, the trustee is somebody you trust. So, in this case, it could be my mom. It could be a friend of mine that lives way across the state, because you want a strategy where, God forbid, something happens, okay? Like I might use Tom for a trustee. So if I ran into a problem, now they have to travel up to Maryland to see Tom.
Hmm.
So maybe I've got a problem here in North Carolina on a property. They travel to Tom. I already know they're going to travel to Tom. So before they get to Tom, I might fire Tom as my trustee, which means my successor trustee, who's on another part of the country,
Right.
is is now the trustee. And Tom goes, I don't know what you're talking about. I just got fired. I'm not the
Right.
trustee. Well, who's the successor trustee? I don't know. And he might not know. So now
Right.
they have to, whoever it is, has to go back to ground zero, find out who the successor trustee is. Then they may go after the successor trustee. But it's written
Hmm.
in the trust that the trustees have no fiduciary responsibility whatsoever, which
Okay.
means, and I've had this problem where one of my trustees got served with a lawsuit one time on a property. Well, he called me, he was a friend of mine. He called me freaking out and says, what do I do? I said, let me make a couple phone calls. I made a couple phone calls to the attorney, and that was it. It was done. Okay.
Right.
So the trustee needs to be somebody you trust. You don't want your LLC to be the trustee. You could have your LLC be the manager, but ultimately, they're also the beneficial interest of your trust. At
Hmm.
least that's what I do.
Right.
So my LLC, which is a multi-member LLC, owns the trust. Okay. The
Right.
management I make either myself or somebody close to me that I can control, and I have it that way. That way, my name doesn't appear on public record. I'm not
Right.
hiding anything. For those of you that are asking in the back of your mind, it's just that I like my privacy.
Right. It's a veil of legal protection and privacy.
Right.
Right.
And I don't want them coming after me for a house and going, well, we kind of heard you own this house and this house and this house and this house. So we're going to go ahead and encumber all those houses. No, I, I own nothing. I mean, I
Got you.
own nothing. I don't even own my bank account or my car. I own nothing.
So you have an amazing attorney, I understand.
Well,
Um,
pretty good.
yeah. Well, I think he's one of the best in the country, isn't he?
Yeah, from what I've got, yeah, because and I use an attorney that's licensed in North and South Carolina because I'm right on the border. He
Sure.
handles everything in North and South Carolina.
Nice.
I love talking to him because Harry has a can-do attitude. Okay, he doesn't have, well, you can't do this. Those words don't even exist in his vocabulary. His
Right.
words, which mimic mine, are what can we do to make this happen?
Hmm.
How do we do this legally? Because don't forget, he's got a law license. I
Sure.
don't. So anytime you have a license, that license can be taken away.
Sure.
Well, it's not worth it for him to lose it. But if he can find a creative way within the law to get around something or
Hmm.
or make something happen, that's great. And my attorney's name, and I'll be glad to give it out, is Harry Marsh for North and South Carolina. Look him up. You can email him at harry@harrymarslaw.com.
Got you. And that's Marsh. Is that right?
Oh, yes.
Okay. If anyone else has any questions, please be sure to post them in the Facebook group or here if you're live with us on Zoom. Obviously we're recording this and we're going to be able to post a replay for people to tune in later. We have gone for just over an hour, which is exactly what you said. I think the information.
Are you there? Tom, you just froze up. Well, I guess something happened to Tom and he's not with us. It's just me. Hello. Um, Let me see. There's one more question on here, I think. You have to forgive me. I've got to put my glasses on so I can see. Let's see what we got here. Oh, you're definitely welcome, Vinny. And hi, Luke. Welcome aboard. Um, Certainly appreciate you all being here, by the way. Let me post. Oh, Tom, there you are.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I apologize there. I had a technical Wi-Fi issue there for just a moment, so I lost you. But like I said, I set up this time for 2 hours, so
okay.
Zoom should not be shutting down on us. Like I said, I just think I had a little Wi-Fi glitch there for a second, so I'm glad we came back. Jeff, is there anything that you want to share with us? Anything that maybe I didn't touch on or that we didn't cover that's really important to remember?
Well, first of all, I would suggest if you're new in this business or you don't know as much about this, it's not, excuse me, it's not your wheelhouse. Okay. It's not what you do all the time. There's an old story by Henry Ford. He was being sued for libel, or he was suing a newspaper for libel because basically he called him stupid. So the attorney had gone up and had said, "Hey, do you know how many cars are produced every month?" He said, "No." He goes, "Do you know how much money the company makes?" He said, "No." The bottom line is he's asked a whole bunch of questions he didn't know the answers still. And this attorney for the newspaper goes, "Your Honor, arrest my case," and walks away. So his attorney walks up and he repeats these questions. "Do you know how many cars are made every month?" He said, "No." He goes, "Well, if you want to know, how do you find out?" He goes, "Oh, that's easy. See, just side note, we used to have these telephones that had these cords that plugged into a wall."
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, okay? And he goes, "I got this push button telephone on my desk." He goes, "When I want to know about production, I press the button, it says production. When I want to know how much money the company is making, I press the one that says accounting," and so on and so forth. And his attorney turns around and goes, "I rest my case." And he wound up winning because it showed he wasn't stupid. He looked at the judge and said, "Your Honor, why should I clutter up my mind with all this additional information when I can just press a button on my desk and find out?" So what I'm trying to say is, just like Tom said, he'll have me contact the person with him on the phone. He'll make the introduction because I know what I'm doing and he doesn't when it
Right.
comes to this strategy. And I would say that to you. First of all, it's better to make a percentage of something than 100% of nothing. Okay, that's
Or
first.
do it wrong and put yourself at risk.
Well, again, you lose it. You know, you're going to lose a deal, or you're right, you're going to risk yourself and leave yourself wide open to a whole lot of hurt. Okay, financially especially.
Gotcha.
Um, the second
I've got a
thing,
couple other quick questions,
yeah,
Jeff, if we can get to those. You
sure, of
ready?
course.
Okay. Have you ever had to foreclose on a tenant buyer?
No, no, I've
So
never had to
just
foreclose
eviction,
on somebody. Yeah,
right?
just
Because
eviction on the rent to own because they're
okay,
a tenant buyer, and I've gotten
okay,
them out. I've paid a couple people to leave though to avoid foreclosure because if you
okay.
think about the time involved in foreclosure and having to make the additional payments, and you know you don't know if they're going to damage the property or not, it might be cheaper to get them out. No,
Okay.
I've done that a number of times.
Well, let me ask you this because I'm not sure I understand the distinction. I certainly understand the question, but if someone defaults on a contract for deed, is that a form of foreclosure to get
Yeah,
them out?
it's supposed to be, but
Okay.
sometimes you don't have to go that far.
Okay. Okay. And like you said, you may make it easier for them to move on.
Exactly.
Right. Right. Okay. We got another great question from Mark. Um, ever use an attorney as a lawyer as a trustee, or is that overdoing it?
That's a thing of debate that, you don't want an attorney because they're going to complicate things. My local attorney, Harry, he's my trustee for my local properties. On properties that are out of state that I have, I just have other people be the trustee. Like
Okay.
if Tom was my trustee, I could call Tom and go, hey, XYZ is going on with this property. I just want to let you know. He'd say, okay, and that'd be about it because he knows I'm going to handle it.
Yeah. Yeah. You would just be informing me because I would just do whatever you tell me.
Right.
Because I'm
and
coachable.
Most trustees do.
I'm coachable. I wasn't always coachable. Tammy will tell you, I probably wasn't always coachable. But, one of the things I like about life is redemption. And one of the things that I like about growing as a human being, and, now that I'm in the 50-something club, I've made my life simpler. I've made my circle smaller, and I do a lot more listening than talking. And that's one of the reasons I'm doing interviews. I interviewed a short sale specialist the other day, a digital marketing specialist who's generating leads through Facebook the other day. And then you and I chatted, and you wanted to do this because when I'm talking, I can only talk about that which I know. So if I'm interviewing, I'm learning. And that's where I am. I've come to that place in my life where I love learning, and I want to learn more and more and more. I know everyone on the call, and even Vinay, thanked us for doing the interview. Vinay, you're welcome. Everyone, you're welcome. I'm so grateful for you for this time. This is going to help both of us personally, professionally, build our brand to add value to the community. Anything else that you wanted to share about the process, how you get leads, any challenges you've overcome, anything that you wanted to share as we kind of wind things up here?
Well, thank you, Tom. I would just like to say that going back to what we were talking about before, don't get involved in sub 2 if you don't know about it. Go to somebody who knows. It doesn't have to be, it could be anybody that has done deals and that understands the process and what it takes. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I would say, if you're a newbie in this arena, not a newbie to real estate necessarily, you could be, maybe you haven't done a deal, maybe you've done 100 deals, but you haven't really done a sub 2 deal. Don't get involved in a sub 2 deal if you don't understand all the nuances of it. Bring somebody else along. But also, don't get involved in a sub 2 deal unless you know you can make the underlying payments. Because that person, in this case, we'll use Tom as an example, we've built a rapport. We built a trust factor. He's giving me his credit. Okay. If I betray his trust and destroy his credit, I also destroy my credibility aside from him.
Right.
Personally.
Right.
So that's what I want to say.
Right. Yeah, that's fantastic point. And, we haven't been in touch as much lately. And I know that we're going to be working on some things together as we discussed over the past few days. So I'm very excited. I've been looking forward to this interview since we talked about it last week. I think your knowledge is immeasurable and incomparable, and you have made a tremendous impact on a lot of people. And one of the things that I've seen, and this is just over the last 2 weeks, your Facebook group alone has gone from 890 people to over 950 people in less than 2 weeks. And so with this kind of interview, with this kind of content, and we have some people watching us live now, and we have some people here within the group. Mark thanked you as well, and both of us for doing this. And I'm beyond excited, man. We've got a lot of really good things in our future. I've missed you, buddy. I do apologize for missing a visit, but I am going to be in North Carolina on or before the 19th of November. And I definitely look forward to spending some time together. Maybe getting an Airbnb near you and work together for a few days would be amazing.
Well, I'm going to be here.
Huh?
I said, I'm going to be here.
Oh yeah, definitely, and maybe make maybe make a few rounds with you. But if anyone has any last questions, I'm looking here in the Facebook group. Doesn't look like I have any new questions. I think. I missed one question from Jordan. Okay.
Yeah.
How often are tenant buyers on a lease option actually buying the homes? Do you have any stats on that? I know it varies.
Yeah, it does vary, but overall, I will say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Okay. You can't make somebody buy the house.
Right.
Think about this. If they get transferred, are they going to buy the house? No. If they get divorced, are they going to buy the house?
Right.
No.
Right. No.
If they lose their job, are they going to be able to buy the house? Probably not.
No.
Okay. There are a number of things. So I have found that the average person, I've sold the house 4 times to tenant buyers before they buy. So if you think about it, my rent-to-own properties are 24 months. I don't do more than 24 months because then it might be perceived as equitable interest in the property. So I'll extend them. I'll just give them a new lease. Okay. Rent-to-own. But typically I found about the 4th buyer will buy the house. So no matter how you slice it, that's about 7-8 years. So for all you buy and hold people, it's the same thing, except I make a lot more money.
That brings me another question. Sorry to interrupt. And maybe this is actually a curveball, but I've heard that national statistics say that up to 25% of tenant buyers ever buy. Do you personally, I know you said you can lead a horse to water. Do you ever personally recommend that once they get in, that they connect with the loan officer to get them prepared to become a buyer? Do you give that advice? Just curious. And is it good advice? I don't know.
It can be. It's a double-edged sword. Now, I have a couple higher end properties, 300, 400, 500,000, that I'm under a time frame, okay, to exercise with them. I've got one, in another state where I agreed, okay, this deal is only good for 36 months. Well, because it's a higher end property and I have a time frame and I know how much money I'm going to make on it, I put them in a credit repair program. On some of my other properties, that if it doesn't matter or I don't need the money per se on the back end, okay, and I can wait and it's not under a time frame, then no, I'm not going to put them in credit repair, because ultimately I want them to buy, but it is up to them. They have to be willing to help themselves.
Sure.
So they're in this scenario for a reason. If they can't pull themselves out, don't look at me for solving your problem. I'm not going to do that. So I won't make them buy the house, and I'm not going to make them enter credit repair. Now, if I'm under the gun,
right,
a time frame, I will have them enter credit repair because I want them to buy the house 100%.
Right. Understood. And again, it could be a situation, obviously case by case. But it sounds to me like if you know what the end result is going to be, depending on, how it's going to benefit everyone, like you said, on the timeline, you may advise to that effect, you may not. The reason I mention it is because I know a couple of people who have been in real estate a long time and they do lease options, and 70%, 75% of their tenant buyers buy because they start that credit repair, or the loan officer will incubate them to get them ready to become a homeowner.
Right.
Because there's a payoff.
It depends on what your exit strategy is.
Sure.
I like keeping property. I want to help people to be able to buy. That's the whole point I'm doing this. But if they don't buy, I'm not going to make them. I'm not, I can only hold so many people's hands and say, hey, do this, do that, do this. But there comes a point in time, as I said before, they need to help themselves. If they're not willing to do it and they're looking at somebody else to do it for them, they got the wrong person.
Okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. Also, another shout out to Tammy. She enjoyed our interview as well. So, appreciate you. Hopefully you and JC are doing incredibly well. And, again, everything happens for a reason. And thank you so much for reaching out to me the other day. It was actually about something else. And so, like I said, I've been starting this interview process, and, you can't see my camera, but I just bought a Logitech C922. So I'm big time now. And I think you can kind of see it, but anyway, I got this new microphone and it makes me sound like butter. So very, very excited about doing these interviews. Can't think of a better, more knowledgeable person to do it with. I had an absolute blast. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before we sign off?
No, I think that's good. Again, if you're not a member of the group, join our Facebook group. It's called Free Houses Sub 2. You'll know it's ours. It has a yellow banner with the roof of a house. Okay, right. I would love to have you on there, and you can ask questions and post properties that you have and tell us about the deal. It's not a marketplace. It's not for you to push out your wares or anything. Those posts will be deleted. But, it's there so that we can all learn. Right. I still learn. I still get educated every year, probably 4 or 5 times a year. I do an event. Education is really important. Never stop educating yourself and learning.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And looks like I got everyone's questions. If there's nothing else, we're going to go ahead and sign off. Last question I had for you. Do you want to connect with, or maybe you can put this in the group as a follow-up, if someone has a potential subject to opportunity, they can reach out to you through the Facebook group, and you can kind of go through the process, see if
they can reach out to me. And what I do is I partner with people all over the country.
Okay.
And do something. Like I said, part of it is better than 100% of nothing.
Sure.
I've had some people say, oh, let me give you 100% of the deal. I just want to be a fly in the wall. And I won't do that. I want everybody to make money. So I'll give them a part of the deal, and they can be a fly in the wall. They get the best of both worlds. Does that hurt me a little bit financially? Yeah, because I make less, but that's okay. There's enough for everybody.
Yeah, and it gets back to that abundant mentality that you talk about, and I've certainly learned that a long time ago, and I've been really, really focusing on it. And like I said, we're always learning. You're either moving forward or you're moving backward. You can't stay still. So, so I think that's all that we have for right now. I really appreciate your time. When I upload this to YouTube, I know we're going to get a lot of hits on it, Jeff. So just to recap, I'm here with Jeff Richman from the Free Houses Sub 2 Facebook group, real estate expert, subject to specialist. I'm Tom, the People Conductor Black. I love bringing people together for mutual benefit so I can elevate, educate, and motivate people in my unique way. As always, brother, love you, man. Appreciate your time. And, we will definitely be in touch really soon.
Okay. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a good night.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.